Hi, I'm Wendy Strgar and welcome to my home studio, and we're doing another segment of yoga for sexual health. And really today is this little moment we're going to do is less about pure yoga as it is training to do pure yoga. Because I know that especially when I was younger, used to go and I could stretch into so many poses, but I had no business being there. You know, I was not strong enough. And so we're actually working on strengthening the core so that you actually can do yoga safely. And that while you're doing that, you're actually providing yourself the really just inherent power of center. I mean, do you remember you used to give that great lecture at your core yoga about what was that, the third chakra?
Yeah, the third chakra.
Can you
Sure.
do your little third chakra?
I mean, it's a little bit included in the Breath of Fire video if you want to check that one out. But it is the center of our personal power and the way that we are able to be powerful in our lives, in our work, in our relationships, and in our intimacy. Absolutely. So strengthening this area is also, strengthening and opening.
Right.
I can't stress enough that balance of finding that strength so that we can go out and stand up for ourselves, stand in our, in our power, really.
Right. So, and it's actually work. So I just want to say that that it's like it takes attention, and we did this little piece about awareness, but it takes real attention. And I just showed in the last video how if you make movement, when you move without consciousness and your attention, and without recruiting this core space, you can really easily hurt yourself, especially in the fabulous 50s. And so, but even all through life, I mean, even when I was in my 30s and I had a kid on my hip all the time, and you're just kind of going through the motions, but you're not conscious. So we're going to show you a couple of exercises. This is my least favorite exercise to do, but one that really is really strengthening, and we call it
the hip up.
The hip up.
The hip up. So it's a Pilates-based exercise, but we're working up to boat pose, Navasana, right? That's a very common traditional core yoga pose. But before we do that, we're going to do the hip up to strengthen the transverse and the deep abdominals, get the pelvic floor really working, and then we're also going to get our spine into some flexion and practice recruiting the muscles from a seated position.
Right, so you should show it really first so that people can see the height potential, and then they'll see what it looks like when they can't do quite as much, but that it's still working the same space, right?
Yeah. Okay. So ponytail, that's actually a point. If you have a bun right behind you, you'll want to move it because you need to have your head soft on the floor. It really is important that the neck is relaxed. The hands, we're going to press them down, and I like to imagine I'm pressing against something. There's really some work happening there.
In your arms.
In the arms, especially in the triceps. The ribs are drawn down. The low back is imprinted.
And you're recruiting your pelvic floor.
Pelvic floor is recruited. I'm going to cross my ankle. And then we're going to take a little tiny scoop of the navel to the spine and exhale breath and a little lift. So it's a small lift. And
it is pretty incremental, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it can be bigger, right? It can look like this. A lot more control. I'm shaking a little when I do that because it's hard to not let your shoulders and your head come up off the floor. But it requires a lot of core strength. So what we're going to try to avoid is swinging, right? We don't want momentum because we can pretty much all do that. It's the idea that the core muscles and the pelvis and the transverse abdominis are lifting.
From here.
And so you're actually inside.
Here and also here, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll talk you through it.
Okay. So anyway, and you don't need to do that many if you're doing it right.
No.
Either, right?
No, usually just 7 or 8 on each side. Yeah. Okay,
so each side meaning that we sort of switch the ankles.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start with the arms. Arms up to the sky. Pressing down with energy, opening the chest, making sure the back of the neck is happy. We've got that natural cervical curve. We're going to sink the ribs or melt them down and then sink the navel to the spine. Inhale, just finding length. And exhale, navel to spine, little lift of the hips. Tailbone lifts, beautiful. Let's do 4 more and then we'll switch. Good. See, she's shaking. She's working. Beautiful breath, keeping the neck and shoulders as relaxed as possible. And last one, let's switch the legs. Good. Inhale. Exhale, navel to spine, lifting in and up. Tiny little lift. You're doing a really beautiful job not to use momentum here. This is amazing. Lifting in and up for just 2 more. Good, and last one. And then drawing the knees into the chest, little counter pose.
I'm just like already sweating.
Yeah, so, you're working. It's a full body thing, right?
Yeah, and you really do have to have your pelvic floor pulled up when you're using those other muscles.
Oh yeah.
So it's really weird because it's easy to not have the consciousness of that. And then it's so much harder to do the action to do that.
Great job.
So why don't you show the C?
Okay, so the C.
That's really actually working here, but surprising amount of effort on top with that.
Yes, and that's just like boat pose.
Yeah.
Right? And that's just like the warm-up that we started with. It's all connected, baby.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so C curve, we're going to start with the feet sitting bone width apart. And we're going to lengthen the spine as much as we can. So many people find that when they come to a seated position, their pelvic tilts under. And if that's you, go ahead and roll up a blanket, a mat, a pillow, sit up on something so that you can find your spine lengthening. Okay. So from here, I'm going to think about drawing the navel to the spine. And I love the cue of imagining I have a tail. And you can pull it or draw it gently between your legs. So that's the initiation. We're going to do C curve. So it's going to look like this. Inhale, lengthening. Exhale, curling back. The full spine comes into flexion. The shoulders stay soft, and I'm looking for an even sort of C shape through the spine. And then we come forward and lengthen up nice and tall. So we'll do that twice, and then the third time we're going to pause and practice a little breath of fire. So we'll just do 10. And the navel's going to draw toward the spine.
Right.
And we're holding the back of our legs, softening the shoulders.
And you're actually really, that breath of fire, you're really having to use these muscles as well as pulling in here. Kind of the same thing we were doing, right?
Yes.
But really prepares you for this boat that we're trying to get to,
surely
right?
does. These are the muscles we need to use.
Okay, so
feet are sitting bone width apart.
You know, I might actually just be that candidate that needs a little bit more height to have the spine long. So, and I just want to say this, that I love Caitlin, and she's so beautiful, and I love to watch her, and I love to believe that I look like her, even though I don't. But it's like, give yourself the support you need to have the same experience. Sure. Right? And, you know, I mean, just get over this idea of what it looks like.
Exactly.
And just
I mean,
be
do it
in
with
your own
eyes
body.
Closed if you can, because it's really about what it feels like, and where you feel this muscularly happening for you.
Yeah, so I might actually even close my eyes.
Yeah, so let's take the feet sitting bone width apart, so a little bit wider. Great.
Okay.
Hands behind the thighs. So we're going to lengthen up, so shoulders on top of the hips. Right now you're leaning back. There we go. And we can walk the feet out a little. Yeah. So then inhale as you lengthen, nice and tall. Exhale, initiating navel to spine, curling back. And even the head into a curve, but without the shoulders, And then inhale as you shoot forward, lengthening up nice and tall. Once again, stacking the spine. Beautiful. Shoulders up. Inhale, lengthen nice and tall. Exhale, navel to spine, tail between the legs, curling back, but maintaining as much length as you can, right? It's that opposition. So we're still staying lifted and long, but rounding also. I know it's complicated.
And it's hard to do. It looks easy watching you.
And then going over and up.
Because it does actually require all those muscles. So let's try one more time, see if I can get it this time.
So we'll do it with the pulses this time. Exhaling to curl back, navel to spine, length and rounding, softness. Good. Inhale just to prepare, and exhale, navel to spine. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then curling forward, lengthening tall, and relaxing down. You're working. That looked great.
Yeah,
that looked
really?
Beautiful.
Okay, so there it is.
But it's not about how it looks. How did it feel?
It felt really hard, and again, I'm sweating because you really actually are engaging literally from here to here, all of these muscles. And adding breath to it really is actually kind of waking up the fire that we need to know where it is if we want to have good sex.
Yeah.
You know, and it's in all of us. That's the beautiful thing, right? It's in all of us.
It is. It is.
So, so join us again for another segment when we're going to dive into the boat. We're going to float on that boat and practice. I mean, you saw how quick this is. You could do it literally like for 3 minutes. And 3 minutes every day is going to make a huge difference in your ability to have the kind of lovemaking you want and to feel strong in your days and to be sort of the center of your own power, right? So join us again, like us, tell your friends about us, and we'll be back with a boat.